I would coat it and it would light you on fire. Professional athletes, you want to recover, heat. Heat is your best friend.
You get into an automobile accident every week.
For the first time, instead of somebody writing a workout for me, I get to come up with my own stuff.
Danny Sorenson, I appreciate you being here. I've always admired you from afar. It was funny because Danny Sorenson, two-time Super Bowl player, one time you've got a Super Bowl ring.
That's right.
Super Bowl champion. Came from BYU. This is going to sound really weird, but back when I had my little company, I remember the first time I delivered a tub to his house, and I didn't expect to meet him. But Danny comes running out. Are you Mr. Grobuff? that was like the biggest compliment ever. Like I was Mr. Grobuff from now on.
But I was excited because it was hand delivered. It wasn't like
which
it wasn't
is nothing.
shipped
Like
by the
you're
mailman.
A Super Bowl champion.
I was excited. I was getting the actual product from the guy. So that was exciting for me. Yeah.
But I appreciate that. There's so many things about your career that are phenomenal, that really make you a superhuman being in so many ways. To be able to play in the NFL that long, that is incredibly rare.
Yeah.
It's such a train wreck job. Like most people don't understand the trauma, the day in and day out, constant trauma. Yeah. It's just shocking. When we had talked before, you had made the analogy of you get into an automobile accident every week.
Yeah.
And you know that when you're running on the field.
Right.
And then the next day, mandatory.
Yeah, you're back in, you're working out. You've got practice later the week. Like you've got less than 7 days to repeat the process, and you're back out there in another car accident.
So how in the world do you prepare for a car accident a week? And especially, you had a long career. Like for the NFL, that is a long career. Especially, I mean, you were with the Chiefs for how long?
So 8 years in Kansas City.
That's incredibly rare.
Two Super Bowls there. Like we talked about, won one and lost one.
Right.
And then I moved on to New Orleans I was there for 2 years. I attribute it to doing all the little things as best as you can.
Can you go into the little things?
Yeah,
kind of separate them out a little bit.
One big part of staying healthy was actually training.
Right.
A lot of people will get that like, oh, I'm not going to work out in season. I don't want to be sore. But if you do it the right way, it helps promote recovery. Right. So there was times in my career, we'd play Sunday. I'd be in there Monday morning. This is a few hours after the game. Monday morning, hitting heavy squats, doing cleans, doing heavy movements.
And it's not just a workout. You're talking about heavy.
Heavy, yes, heavy. Because that was the primary, that was my big leg lift of the week.
Help with the recovery.
And it helps with the recovery. You might not feel good as you get going, right? Oh, I feel that, I feel this, I feel that bump and bruise.
Right.
By the end, you flush that out. You kind of get that out, and you maintain a level of condition, right? Instead of slowly losing strength and muscle and condition over the course of the season because you're not lifting.
Right.
You're maintaining, and even at some point, you could be gaining strength, right?
Right.
And so that was a huge part of it. The other part of it is, the recovery side, which, sauna, did a lot of sauna. I did a lot of stretching, post-practice to keep things loose, right, while you're warm. And that's what I kind of found out is, and it's, like we talked about, a lot of the older guys just know, right? And it's good to hang around the older guys because they've figured things out, right? They've done things for a long time, right? And that's a reason why they're still playing. And one of the things, and I didn't always do this early in my career, but they lived in the sauna.
Really?
These older guys.
Huh. Like more than once a day or longer than 20 minutes a day?
Yeah, more than once a day.
Huh.
And because they just liked the way it felt on their bodies, right? It helped them stay warm. Like they're like, no, I'm not going in the cold tub. Huh. I'm not going. I'm like, I don't feel good when I get out.
That counters everything everyone's doing right now.
Exactly. But I'm telling you, professional athletes, you want to recover. Heat is your best friend.
Huh.
Keep the blood flow moving. Keep things loose, right? Promote recovery through blood flow and through heat. And And so I saunaed religiously after that. Sometimes steam, sometimes sauna, sometimes both.
Right.
You know, but heat was definitely
part of it.
A big part of just, you know, staying healthy and feeling good and helping recover. So training hard and then recovering hard as well. Yeah.
So what about the other, when we talked last time and you talked about some of these little incremental things that add up.
Yeah.
I was fascinated that it was literally a lifestyle.
Yeah.
It wasn't simply, everyone thinks about football and they think about athletic performance. They think about, nutrition, but there were other things that you said you implemented.
So it's just, if you look at who I was an undrafted free agent trying to make a 53-man roster in the NFL, right?
Right.
And ended up playing 10 years. You're competing against the best athletes in the world, right? And so any edge, any competitive advantage, I had to look for and try and take advantage of. And so you can compartmentalize all these different sectors. Well, nutrition is one of them.
Right.
And so I had to learn, what do I need to eat? You know, what kind of foods, how much, how do I keep my body strong, in shape, healthy, lean, all these different things. And every year it was, I gotta find the edge, right? How can I do this better? And it wasn't like, oh, I figured it out and I just kept doing the same thing over the course of my career. It was every year was like back to the drawing board. Okay, how can we make this a little better? You know, like what else can I try? Can I try some intermittent fasting? Can I try lowering my carbohydrates at certain days of the week, right? To then put them back in before game time. You know, I used to call it rocket fuel, right? Like, can I fuel my body on low carbohydrates so then my body's sensitive to when I introduce carbs to then play in a game? I kind of called it like rocket fuel, right? So you utilize those carbohydrates because your body's just ready for them, right?
Right.
You know, I did the carnivore diet for about a year and a half, and that had amazing benefits as well, where I completely cut out almost all carbohydrates and just ate meat. And I've had amazing results with that. That was, I'm pretty sure that was our second Super Bowl run. I was on the carnivore diet. And then after that, okay, how can I make this better? Okay, well, I do think for high performance athletes, carbohydrates are the way to go. Okay, so what carbohydrates do well with my stomach? How can I break down, so it was like, okay, rice, sweet potatoes, right? Simple, fruits, things like that.
Yeah.
Let's introduce those back into the diet. And so nutrition was a big part of it. Training has evolved every year. And you ask any of my strength coaches, I always question, can we try this? Can we do this? I'm always in there. They're usually my best friends, right, on the team, or the strength and conditioning staff. Like I love going in and hanging out there when I got free time between meetings. I got to the point, film study, right? Huge part of the game, right? The mental aspect of it. How much film can I get in, right? A week. How can I maximize my time?
How much film would you get in a week?
So I was in New Orleans just this past year, mostly on the practice squad. I played a few games, but my family was here. I got all the time in the world, right?
Right.
And so I used all that time dedicated to football. And I lived about 30 miles away from our facility. So it was a 30-minute drive there and 30-minute drive back. So that's an hour of my day.
Right.
I said, let me download some tape and let me mount my iPad in my truck. And
Get an hour a day driving.
Let me just cruise through and hit some cut-ups on the way into work. Or let me just watch the practice film on my way home. So I was sneaking in extra minutes. Yeah, you know, and one of our coaches there had started, because he had felt like some guys weren't preparing enough for the games. So they started tracking how many hours, because the iPad, you can tell when the players log in. Right. And I don't know if the players understood this. Right. That, hey, every time you log in or don't log in, the coaches have access to that. So they can see who hasn't been studying for the games.
They really like Danny's iPad.
And so I topped the charts a lot of the weeks with my film study, and it kind of got under the quarterback's skin a little bit, because they're they're known for having to study all this stuff. How did you get in 11 hours of film study this week? What are you doing? I'm like, guys, I got no kids. I got, they're back at home. I'm studying film. Like that's, I'm eating dinner. I got my film up. I'm watching it. So things like that. In Kansas City, I remember I found a room that was a quiet room to study film. And I kind of made it kind of like that was like my space. So
I don't think most people realize the absolute, it just consumes your life.
Sure. And I love that, right? Though, like, how can I get better? How can I use the time in the day to maximize this, right? And I really believed that when you're at work, be at work, right? Like, I'm at football practice.
Yeah.
So when I've got an hour off for lunch, like, it takes me 5-10 minutes to eat. Let me go use the rest of the time and go study film. Right?
Right.
Or some guys might, hey, I'm going to take a nap. I'll listen to some music. Let me play some basketball, which is great. Nothing wrong with that.
Right.
That could be healthy too, to do those kind of things. I was different. Let me go in the weight room. Let me see if I can get an extra lift in. Let me do twice as much as what the coach is asking, right? Oh, we need guys to work out twice a week. Well, I'm working out 4 days a week, And yeah, I just really wanted to maximize my time there because I knew when I left work and I showed up home, I've got kids that they want to see dad. They haven't seen all day.
Right.
And so now we're wrestling in the basement and we're, throwing the ball and playing catch, those kind of things. I didn't have time to study film at home. So I maximized my time in the facility. And then when I was home, I tried to be home. And so the iPad was put away, right?
Right.
So I was just reminded because I was talking to my friend. I was just kind of telling him this is how the last couple of years have gone down in my NFL career. I worked with him back in Kansas City, and he since has moved on, and I moved on to New Orleans. I told him the last 2 years, part of my pregame ritual is I would take Tiger's Balm and coat my entire body in Tiger's Balm.
Wow.
Not because I had muscle soreness or something was aching or injured. I just craved, and I really grew to appreciate the focus and the intensity that I was able to get to.
Wow.
Pre-game. So right before I put my pads on, I'd put these latex gloves on.
Right.
And I would coat everything except, the midsection.
Yeah. Right.
In Tiger's Balm, sometimes, you get an extra burn there, but I would coat it and it would light you on fire.
Huh.
And to me, it warmed me up.
Yeah.
And it also, I felt like I had this, it helped me overcome the jitters, right? Like the nervousness,
Yeah.
And it just kind of felt like you were on fire.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's the mindset I want when I'm going out there and I'm going to run down on kickoff and I'm going to run right into somebody, right?
Wow.
And now it wouldn't last the whole game, obviously.
No.
But it was just perfect for me to get in the zone and to get fired up.
And probably get you through the adrenaline rush.
Exactly. And anyways, so I've been using that technique the last 2 years.
No way.
And some of the guys, your jerseys are so tight that you need help getting your pads on, the trainers.
Right.
And they could smell me coming. Oh, here comes Dan. He's got It's like, where is he? Because I would smell this menthol and just the strong smell. But talking about that burn, it's like, you crave it,
Yeah.
you really learn to appreciate what it does because it really locks you in the zone. It really gets you there. I mean, what more could you want when you're getting ready to play in a, physical NFL football game where everything's on the line? You need to be in the zone, you need to be focused, and you need to feel warm. That's everything that it would do. And to your point, that's what the muscle does, right?
Right.
I take it in the morning, and I have the way I like to do it is I hop in the hot tub and I drink it hot.
You drink it hot.
For me, it helps speed up the process of warming my body up. But as soon as it kicks in, I skip the warm up stage of my workout. The 15 minutes of, hey, let's roll out, let's make the muscles feel good, let's do some stretching. It's like when it kicks in, I'm ready to go.
You're warm.
This morning, I jumped right into sprints. No warm up. I was like, let's go. I'm ready to go. Boom.
Yeah.
And I hit it. And I love it because maybe some people need that warm up, but I don't. I jump right into it. I'm ready to go.
We call it a chemical warm up.
And and another thing is my father-in-law's been dealing with a wrist. He had a wrist injury, and I gave him some. I said, hey, just try this out. And he swears by it because his wrist would hurt when he was lifting.
Yeah.
He had an accident there, and anyways, he can lift with no pain when he's working out. Later in the day, obviously, he might have some aches and pains and stuff like that. But you talk about somebody that needs some blood flow to some achy, hurt joints that could,
I've had several guys that I've suggested if they've got physical therapy.
Sure.
To take it before physical therapy, because you're going to progress faster if you can continue the full range of motion that your physical therapist wants you to do.
Yeah.
So
it's amazing. I've never looked at it in that light, right? I'm lucky enough to not have any injuries really
which is crazy.
Post career.
You've played for some phenomenal coaches.
Yeah.
And I can just tell that you're a good dad. And so was it a big change from the way that your dad raised you to a way that the coaches expected you to do things? Or was this just a natural transition because this is how you were raised?
No. So my dad was heavily involved so I've got 5 other siblings, right? I'm one of 6 kids. So I've got 4 older brothers and an older sister. And he coached us.
You're the youngest?
I'm the youngest.
Okay.
Yeah. And so he coached us in all the sports.
Really?
He wasn't just there watching, he was there involved. So he was right next to us, soccer, baseball, basketball. And actually we didn't play football until high school, and he didn't do any football coaching. He was a high school basketball coach for several years, coached a lot of my brothers, but he was there always. And then when there was free time, when we didn't have structured time, it was still sports. It was still competitive. And that's one thing is I don't think he ever took it easy on us. It was a great accomplishment when you could beat dad in basketball, in one-on-one basketball, because he would give it to you. Right. He might still give you an elbow or a push, but he wouldn't let you win. And it was a lot of fun. He pushed us, growing up, all of us kids, we competed with each other and helped each other. And I think that's a big reason why, was able to have success, is because I played against some really good athletes who were my older siblings,
Yeah.
And they helped me kind of get to where I was. So
it's interesting, these common things that we just keep hearing.
Sure.
I don't know whether when you mentioned you need to be where you are.
Yeah.
That must be a big thing for coaches, because I've heard literally that same thing from other NFL players.
Yeah. And, you look at a player schedule is full, right? And it's very seasonal. Season is very taxing, right? But you even look at the coaches, it's even more so, because in that line of work, the job's never done. There's always more studying, more preparation, more. But Coach Reed, I think, does a phenomenal job of
balancing,
trying to find a balance, right? He takes care of his other coaches too. Hey, go home, or take a break. And even, talking BYU, Kalani is that same way, right? He understands, listen, football's a game, your family's important. And so, go and spend time with them. Listen, you can get in as early as you want, start working, but when it's at this time of the day, I need you home with your families, right? That's cool. A healthy balance, right? It's just healthy for a human being, right?
Okay, so this might be a little painful.
Yeah.
Coach Reed had a really traumatic family event. Were you there when that happened? Were you playing for him?
I was. That was the Super Bowl that we played in Tampa Bay, the one that we lost, and that incident had happened, just prior to us leaving
for Tampa Bay.
And so I was there with them, and difficult thing to watch happen, but he's the kind of person that is able to kind of take those things, kind of roll with the punches, and still stay focused.
Wow.
And he's amazing at it. Even you look at some other things he's had to deal with in his career, and he's just a great example of how to handle adversity. And, everyone goes through trials and setbacks and stuff. And he's just a great example of kind of how to keep going. And his attitude is amazing. He has just this positive energy. You never see him down, right? Or he lifts people up. He just has this character about him that draws people in, right? People respect him, but they also love him, which is sometimes you don't get both of those, right?
Right.
You don't, you might love somebody, but you don't respect them.
Yeah.
Or you might respect somebody, but you don't love them.
Yeah.
And he's able to capture both of those. It's phenomenal to watch. Yeah.
So let's lighten it a little bit for a second. We talked before, but I asked you how you got your nickname Dirty Dan.
Yeah.
Can you
Sure.
explain how you got that nickname?
So, second year in the league, I'm pretty quiet in nature when I'm in a team environment setting. I go about my business, go about my work, and so that's kind of how players knew me, right? Just kind of quiet. He's a Christian. He's a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, right? But doesn't say much, And so that's, as my teammates are kind of getting to know me, middle to end of the season of my second year, we're playing the Baltimore Ravens, and we were playing in Baltimore, and we had talked about, hey, these guys have nothing to lose. They're willing to do anything to win the game. And so that might mean a fake on special teams. And it was actually my job to sniff out the fake, right? So I'm focused on that, right? And they were backed up, which is typically not a place where you run fakes. They were down, but they had a long yardage. It was like 4th and 9. So it's not a fake down and distance scenario, right? But they run one. The punter decides to take off, and I sniff it out and make the tackle. And I just was so fired up. I'm like, what were you thinking? We were ready for it. I knew it was coming, and I'm I got my head in his face, and I'm screaming as loud as I can. I'm like, we got you guys, nothing vulgar or at all. Just, I'm so excited that we got you. We knew it was coming. I got you, right?
Right.
But on film, there's no audio. So when we sit in the meetings, it looks like I am calling them all kinds of names and using every swear word and all these kinds of things. And they're like, Dan, you're usually this quiet guy. Like, where did this come from? Where did this personality come from?
Yeah.
And somebody, from the back was like, he turned into Dirty Dan. It's a reference from a SpongeBob episode, actually, which is kind of funny. But harmless with its intentions. But this alter ego that I was able to harness, playing at a very intense level, where I'm very quiet and off the field. And so it just stuck. Dirty Dan stuck from that meeting onward. I'd walk down the halls and people were, hey, Dirty Dan, and it just stuck. So kind of a fun nickname, but it comes from that specific play and moment. Yeah.
Okay. Now, very few people on this planet will ever play in a Super Bowl. You've played in 2 Super Bowls.
Yeah.
Where do you park the Super Bowl ring?
Actually, it's in a safe. I haven't seen it for a long time. I hope it's still in there.
That's what I wondered. That sucks.
It's in the basement in a safe.
But what was that like? The first time you put that Super Bowl ring on? Those things are huge.
Yeah. So to me, I treasure, the Super Bowl is great. The ring's awesome. The trophy's cool. I got to say, I'm a Super Bowl winner and all that stuff. But some things that mean more to me and are more valuable to me was some of the adversity that I had to go through in order to even get to that point.
Right.
And so if you want to hear the backstory,
absolutely.
The prior year, I was, for the first time in my career, had an opportunity to be the starting safety, to be the guy.
Right.
And that's what I wanted my whole career.
Right.
I started as a special team guy, role guy. He can come in and help. Well, this year I had the opportunity to be the starting guy. And things just don't just work out that easy, right?
Right.
So in training camp, I think near the end of training camp, last play of the practice, I break my leg. So I tore my MCL, partial tear in the meniscus, and then shattered some of the bones in my tibia.
And they don't usually reattach the MCL.
They tacked it down. Yeah.
Oh,
So
man.
they just took this Teflon tape and tacked it down. But it was the bone fracture that they were worried about.
Right.
Because it had fragmented. They said that typically they see those in car accidents. People
Right.
get hit from the side.
Right.
And that's how they get. So they put a plate in there, and I started my recovery process. And so there goes my shot at being the starting safety. Well, I worked my way back through rehab. I came back playing. I still wasn't ready to go, but I knew my team needed me. I knew I needed to get back out there. So I kind of struggled through some injuries anyways, worked my way back into a starting role towards the end of the season. And we actually made it to the AFC Championship game. We're playing the Patriots at home. We had the game clinched in our hands. And, there's a penalty flag on Tom Brady. And he goes on to beat us in the AFC Championship game. Had one of my better games that game. Had an interception, some key tackles and things like that. So I worked my way through that injury. Well, I'm going into the next year thinking, hey, I'm back, I'm healthy, this should be my role. Well, they drafted a second round safety, and it's just the way it works in the NFL, right?
Right.
It's the new and up and coming, right? And so I was back on the bench. I was back in my role, and I was frustrated. And so all season it went that way. Very little, opportunities there to start. I was playing a lot of special teams. Well, that young safety tears his ACL in the last regular season game of our season, and we're headed into the playoffs. Who's up? Me.
That's you.
Right?
Yeah.
And, I hadn't played a lot of safety the whole year.
Right.
The whole entire year. And here I am. I'm in playoff game starting, right? Playing special teams and starting safety, which you don't usually, you're usually one or the other, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Coach is like, I can't take you off special teams. I need you. And then they're like, well, we need you to be the starting safety. So you got both. And so I was like, let's go, bring it on. I ended up taking 108 snaps.
Wow.
In one game, which is, that's a lot.
Yeah, that is a lot.
And it happened to be the game where we go down 24-3 off the bat. First quarter, we're down 24-3, and it looks like our season's over.
Right.
We come fighting back. I stopped another fake punt. We score a touchdown. We kick the ball off. I force a fumble. We pick the ball up. A few plays later, we score. So within a matter of a few plays, our team's right back in it.
Right.
And we ended up winning the game. We go on to beat Tennessee, and then we're in the Super Bowl. And again, I'm playing all special teams. I'm playing starting safety.
No way. So in the Super Bowl, you were playing both.
In the Super Bowl, because they needed me, and I
That's
said,
rare.
I won't. I'm not going to turn it down. I'm not going to say. So,
yeah, no, but still, like.
So I didn't take a play off other than offense.
Yeah. That's incredible.
And field goal. But so those moments to me, that's what I cherish. I cherish the the adversity, getting thrown in there, having to take on these different roles. That's what was that's what I value most from that. And we go on to win the Super Bowl, and that's amazing too. But it's just like I feel like adversities provided me opportunities to become more and to learn and to be better. Even my freshman season at BYU, all these different moments throughout my career have kind of allowed me to overcome adversity and to learn so much from it.
You mentioned your freshman year at BYU. What happened your freshman year?
So I get recruited as a safety, and there was 10 safeties. I was number 10 on the depth chart, just lost. And I remember there was a certain point in practice where you do your warm-ups, and then I'd sit on the sideline. I would watch the rest of practice, never really get a chance to go in there. So I was frustrated, and they do these spring games, right? And it was getting close to the season, so they let all the backups play. Hey, you guys go in there and see what you got. And I remember being so frustrated. I ended up breaking my helmet. My helmet broke because I was just in a rage, just hitting everything as hard as I could, right? And I remember looking at the sideline, and my helmet's like cockeyed like this. I'm, hey, coach. He's like, no, just stay in there. Just, And I'm like, okay. My helmet's all bent and can barely see. And because of that, there had been some injuries at outside linebacker. So Bronco calls me into his office, and he goes, hey, we love how physical you are. I was 195 pounds.
Right.
That works for safety. It does not work for outside linebacker.
Right.
And they're like, hey, what do you think about making the move to outside linebacker? We like how physical you are. Maybe we could put some weight on you, And so I moved to outside linebacker at 195 pounds, right at the start of the season. And I actually got to play a lot. There's a few teams that we kind of blew out of the water, and so they let the backups in, and I got to play a lot. I got to play a lot at outside linebacker where, had I stayed at safety and, I wouldn't have had those opportunities. So that was my freshman season.
No way.
And it was incredible. It was such a fun time. I learned a ton playing a different position because then I go on, finish my career, go to the NFL. And in the NFL, I took probably more snaps at this linebacker position than I did at safety. It's, it's a dime linebacker. It's, a coverage linebacker that they'll put into these packages. I ended up playing a ton of linebacker in the NFL.
Wow.
And a lot of it has to go, back to my days in BYU where I had a whole season to learn a whole new position. And
playing linebacker.
And kind of overcome the adversity of being stuck on the depth chart and, having to show, hey, I'm get on the field any way I can.
So the picture that I'm getting of this intense player, how did you ever meet a wife?
Yeah, I know, right? And my wife's a dancer that's what she does. And so,
right?
Our worlds collided, right? Like just two totally different worlds. She knew very little football, right? And I knew nothing of dance.
Right.
And so maybe that's why it worked,
Right.
We were camp counselors over the summer, actually. I was doing the sports camps and she was doing dance camps. And a mutual friend of ours introduced us and set us up, and the rest was history.
No way.
Yeah. So. And
you have 3 children?
5 kids.
5 children.
Just had our 5th. He's 6 months old, and our oldest is 9, and Brooks is 9. He's all into sports, loves sports. Kennedy is 7. She's our daughter, our one daughter. And she does lots of stuff too. She plays sports, she dances, and then we have a 5-year-old son who's into all kinds of things outdoors. Loves wearing his cowboy boots, riding motorcycles,
right?
Going on adventures. And then we have a 3-year-old son, McCoy, who again is like just like his older brother. They're like twins. Love sports, all things sports, and then we have our little 6-month-old baby. So we've been married 11 years.
11 years.
10 seasons in the NFL. 11 years married. So my wife
She's been through it all.
Every year we've been married, it's been a football season. And so we haven't had a year without football.
This is your first year.
Our first year without football. And she'll testify that means, missing holidays, working on Thanksgiving, working on Christmas Eve. We've been through all the scenarios, gone for Halloween, and so she's had to go through a lot, kind of putting up with a football schedule, and I think she's excited to kind of
have you back.
Have me back, yeah.
You mentioned something about your son, and it reminded me. What was it that you wanted to be when you grew up?
Cowboy.
You wanted to be a cowboy. Did you ever get a chance to? I mean, you're a California boy. Like, how are you going to be a cowboy in California?
Yeah, no. It's probably something that's come on more in recent years. But if you were to ask me, what would be your perfect day, it would be wearing my cowboy boots, up on our property, working on a project. I wouldn't be golfing. I wouldn't be, playing pickleball or whatever. It would be going and working on a project, driving a tractor. Like, that's what I want to be doing,
This is going to sound completely different, but most of the Special Forces guys, that's the same thing.
Yeah.
They just want to disappear and go be on a farm.
That's what I want, yeah. So that would be a dream come true. That's something that I would love to do.
That's cool.
Maybe it'll be in the future. We'll see.
Hopefully.
Yeah. A little plug for my wife. She... So a few years ago, we converted. So during COVID, actually, I set up a room in my basement as a gym. So it was just big enough for one person, and that was me. And I thought it was perfect. It was good, But she's like, oh, I want to start training some friends. So can we move everything up into the garage? And I'm like, okay. I had a set of dumbbells from 5 to 150 pounds in 5-pound increments.
Right.
So that's 105, 110, 115, 120, 120. And I had to carry all of these from the basement up the stairs into the garage. And as she's, we were building out our gym, and, she's getting more people that want to come train in the gym. Well, then she's like, well, we're running out of space in the garage. So these dumbbells are taking up too much space. Can you take them back down to the basement?
He has a big garage.
Yeah.
So now you're taking them.
So now I take the dumbbells that I brought, I take them back down, put them in the basement. And then just recently, she's like, do you even use those dumbbells anymore? You should sell them or something. So then, I bring them back upstairs, and I just finally sold them. So no more moving the 150-pound dumbbells, which who's going to use anyways?
But
too heavy.
I've seen a lot of clips of you using her gym too. I'm kind of, I'm fascinated by how much it's functional exercise.
Yeah.
Because it's not stuff that you usually see.
Sure.
So
in all my years of experience, it's for the first time, instead of somebody writing a workout for me, which that's how it's been, right? You have a trainer, he tells you what to do. I get to come up with my own stuff. I get to train how I want to train. And so it is a lot of unique, different movements, you know? And that's not to say the traditional squat and bench, but I want to come up with something new. I want it to be engaging. I want it to be fun. I want to try new stuff. Is there a better way I could do this?
Right.
Again, it's just like this constant hunger and thirst for more and something new, something different. It keeps me going. I walk into the gym sometimes with no plan at all. I don't know what I'm going to do.
Right.
I start looking at this. Well, let's put this, a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and let's mix it, and let's do this. And, I still want to train like an athlete. So it's high intensity, your movements, right? But it's also stuff that I'm going to feel good after. I'm going to be able to finish my workout, and I'm not, aching as I'm going up the stairs or can't bend down to pick up my kids, right? Hey, Dad, let's go play catch. All right. I can go and do that. I actually was like, hey, I told my wife, I'm like, we need to make this gym fun. It needs to be a fun space.
Right.
And so I took on the challenge and started painting some walls in there.
Yeah.
And there's some pretty fun walls in there. We put up some lights. It's not quite done yet. There's stage 3 and 4 that's going to go on, but she's starting to train in there. And I think I love fitness so much that I think that's the path I'm going to start going down. I can't it's something I think about all day. I might as well be doing something with it. So I'm going to start inviting whoever wants to come train with me.
You're going to grow out of that garage.
Yeah. And so I think, my son is 9 and he's playing sports. He's going to be playing tackle football this year. I want to get him ready.
Yeah.
And I want him to be doing stuff that's going to help him have success, which means not only play well, but stay healthy, right? Some of the things that I've learned, I hope to pass on to him, as he starts his own career, right? So you're passing the baton, right? As one finishes, you pass it on, your knowledge to the next. But that being said, I'm also baffled at how many former athletes there are that, they trained to play football, to play basketball, to play baseball, to play these athletic sports. And when they're done, I don't feel like there's a lot of places for former athletes to continue training like an athlete. I don't think that should ever stop.
Right.
I don't think you should stop running. I don't think you should stop jumping, right? But you go to a traditional gym, it's machine-based.
Yeah.
Right. And it's not, freedom of movement. And it's not necessarily geared toward athletes. So I think it could be really fun to help people that are finished with their career like me to keep training the same way. You spent so long learning and developing your talents. I think it's only right that you should continue to train like a basketball player, like a football player, like a baseball player. Have a lot of rotation, have a lot of core stability, things like that. And so that's what I'm excited about moving forward. We got this gym space. Hopefully we make it really fun. But you know, to keep training, to keep going, you know, alongside the mindset we've talked about. I'm always seeking for improvement, and I think I always will. I think that's something I don't want to lose.
Right.
As my career's finishing, I don't want to say, well, I just spent the last 14 years trying to perfect and improve. Why stop?
Yeah, exactly.
You know, and I would say too, for everyone else, like, don't stop. There's no finish line. And, you know, that might be discouraging to people, or it could be motivating, right?
Yeah.
You're never, and we talked about this, you're never going to have the perfect body. You're never going to be as strong as you want to be. You're never going to look the way that you want to be, because those are ideals.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the horizon. That's just out there, right? It's what you're after, but it's not what, you know, you'll ever maybe reach.
Right.
But what you should be excited about is the progress made.
Yeah.
Right. And so if you measure, okay, this is where I want to be and this is where I am, you'll be frustrated.
Right.
Right. Because you'll see the difference. You'll see that gap there. Right. And that's where frustration is. You have an expectation, right? And it's not met. There's frustration. But if you look at, hey, this is where I started and this is where I am, if you can look back and see your progress, hopefully that can give you motivation and excitement to say, I'm going to keep going.
Yeah,
Look at this progress that I've made. Let's keep going. Let's see if we can keep this progress going. And yeah, you're still headed towards something.
Right.
Right. But it's the perspective. Right. And I've heard this about a lot of people that are very talented is they see where they wish they could be or where they want to be and where they are. Right. And that drives them. But if you can look at the progress that you've made. Right there's the key to help you continue to move forward. So anyways, that's something also that I've learned over the years, right? Is just be excited about the progress that you've made, your accomplishments, and let that motivate you to keep moving forward. It's cool.
Very cool. I was surprised how much jumping was involved. There's another player that I watched work out, and I was surprised how much jumping was involved.
Yeah. So one of my ideas is jumping is a very intense movement, right? It's everything you've got. Right. It's all out, right? You're trying to jump. Typically, you're trying to jump as high as you can every time.
Right.
And you'd be surprised you don't get necessarily sore from that.
Huh.
So, you know, these intense movements, sprinting, that can cause some soreness.
Sure.
Right? Jumping, these kind of things, you can do these, you know, with a small volume. You wouldn't jump 100 times in a session, right? You can do things very intense with low volume, and you can get a lot of work without the soreness.
Huh.
And so that's kind of what I want. I want to work really, really hard. I want to be 100% in everything that I do, but I also don't want to be super sore.
So now I know that you're a big reader.
Yeah.
Is this more from what you've researched on your own, or is this what you've learned from trainers along the way, or?
A little bit of both.
Okay.
Yeah. And so, you know, if you look at training with some dials, right, you have volume as one of them. Right. So if you crank up the volume, you can't also have high intensity. Right. Because that won't work. Because eventually the intensity will go down if you're trying to keep the volume high. Right. You can't sprint forever. No. Right. At some point, so it has to be the volume has to go down. Right. And so, yeah, if you want the volume high, that would be long distance running. That would be more of your endurance athlete, right? Really high volume, which is great. And you can get in really good shape doing that. Just a lot of high volume. Or you take down the volume and you increase the intensity. So everything you do is as hard as you can, 100%, right? And so that's what I've found. I want to keep that intensity really, really high, and I want to keep the volume down. So that was a secret I learned from some coaches, some trial and error of how you can train in season and still maintain. I can still get under the squat bar, and but it might be 1 rep though. Right. It might be 2 reps. Right. I'm not going 5 by 5. Right. I'm not doing 3 by 10. Right. I'm not cranking up the volume. That way I can still lift heavy, still keep that maximum strength, but I'm toning down the volume.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And so that's a lot of what I'm doing even now, jumping, sprinting, and then catch your breath, right? And then do it again as fast and as hard as you can. I think it's a really fun way of training. So there's to that, and there's training for everybody. I'm a big believer, like there's no right way to do something. It's what do you want? What result do you want?
Right.
Okay, then let's find out what we should do to get there.
Yeah.
Versus thinking, well, I'm going to do this hoping and expecting to get this result out of it, right?
Right.
And I think it's a little backwards. You have to kind of work backwards. Okay, what result do you want? Do you want to move fast? Do you want to feel good? Okay, well, let's do it this way.
Yeah.
Right? So it's been a lot of fun. And I want to keep learning and understanding more about it. And again, the idea is to kind of help others along the way. So
very cool.
There's a book by Scott O'Neill, and I think it's labeled just that. It's like be where your feet are, because you can't be somewhere else, right? I can't be at work thinking about home because then I'm not at work.
Right.
Right. So if I'm present in the moment and I'm giving that moment all of my attention, then I'm maximizing that opportunity, right? Because that's all you've got, right? Just be where you are and be present, and that's something that I learned over the years, especially with my own family. I had parents that were in, a family dynamic where we were very present. We did a lot of things together. My dad was very involved in my athletic career. He was very present. Present at my games, but also at home. I could say, Dad, let's go play catch. And he'd pick up the ball. Let's go play ball. Right. And I wanted that dynamic to be in my family as well. And with the help of my wife, I couldn't be up here saying this without my wife, because she helped me coach me along the way too. Like, hey, put that down. You need to go play with your kids, or they haven't seen you all day.
Right.
Or, you've been gone at work. We're going to go do a family activity because I think the kids are missing you.
Yeah.
Right. And so she facilitated this idea, like, hey, this is family. When you're home, this is family. That, like, we're going to be together. This is family time. Right. And two, I noticed too, listen, my kids are sleeping early in the morning. So if I'm going to get any extra work in, I need to get up early.
Right.
Because those are hours that I can take advantage of.
Right.
I can be the first one in the facility while my kids are still sleeping. That's not hours missed. And so I can go and get 2 hours of extra work in. That's where my extra workout would come from. That's where the extra film study and stuff would come from, is taking advantage of those early hours.
Right.
Then everybody else shows up. Okay, normal schedule. We're going to finish it out. And then right when meetings are over, guess who's the first one out of the building? It's me.
Yeah.
Because I'm on my way home because I know the kids are just getting out of school, or it's dinner time, or, my son's got a baseball game. I got to get there. Right. So it's stuff like that I tried to learn how to manipulate the schedule to find some more balance. Hey, I don't have 2 hours at home to study or to do extra workouts at home. When I get home from work, let me wake up 2 hours early
and go in
right? Let me maximize that opportunity. And that's what I did for most of my career. I used those early hours in the morning to go and do the extra stuff that I needed in order to play well, so that I could have a normal schedule when meetings were done. I could come home and I could help coach the football team or the baseball team, or be involved.
That's got to be incredibly rare in the NFL.
And that's advice I'd give anybody, especially the youth, right? Like, and especially with cell phones. The cell phones can take you anywhere. They can take you all over the world. Yeah. Right. But just to be present and in the moment, and to give that moment your 100% attention. Right? Yeah. And to make the most of that experience. So if you're at church, you're at school, you're at work, whatever it is, just be there. You physically can't be anywhere else. So might as well give your mind and attention to that. I think it's been something that's helped me and my family, like, kind of navigate 10 years of the NFL, and that's the only way you can do it, is doing it that way. So Yeah, so it was definitely a learned process, though, and it's something that I'm continuing to learn. But
very cool.
Be where your feet are.
Yeah,
Yeah.
That was the exact phrase, and so I need to ask him now. Did you read that book? But I like that phrase. I like what it sums up.
Yeah. It's important.
Danny, this was great.
This was so cool. So I don't know if
really
I spoke too much,
it.
but
No, not at all. I mean, that was exactly what we needed.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Cool.